Previously on Top Travel.
When I think of endurance sports and fitness sports, I think they're very easy. It just depends on how fit your levels are. So me going out there and doing this, it was going to be a piece of cake. When I went out there, it really humbled me. Never swallowed so much seawater in my life. Really disappointed. I think the key is I should stick to ball sports and not to board sports.
This week on Top Travel.
This is the heart and soul of Noosa, Hastings Street, and it's got such a vibrant atmosphere, almost a European feel. You've got boutiques, you've got art galleries, surf shops, ice cream parlors, and you'd never say that to the right of me you have the very impressive coastline, and to the left the volcanic areas of the mountains, and behind me you have the biodiversity of the fantastic national park. Noosa is the most quaint little town. It's nothing like the Gold Coast because it's not built up at all. It's so quaint, so natural, so picturesque. I'm in the Noosa National Park, which has over 1 million visitors per year. This is completely different to Brisbane. I'm totally in touch with nature. You can find everything here: beautiful runs, walks, wildlife, sea life, and I might even spot a koala. Now, this area is very biologically diverse. What can we expect to see here?
Beautiful wildflower country, rainforest, coastal dunes. Yeah, very diverse.
Excellent. Let's go check it out. Is that a koala up there?
Yeah, that's Kuala. He's having a sleep in the crook of the tree there. So these are the food trees.
So they spend a lot of time doing absolutely nothing.
Basically, yeah, eating and sleeping is what they do.
Is it quite rare to see a koala out in the wild like this?
It is rare in that people often breeze straight past them. They're fairly hard to spot. You can see they're the same colour as the tree they're sitting in, and they sit very still, really just sleeping through the day. So yeah, if you're not very observant, then you can breeze straight past them. You can't see them.
I've seen the koalas in captivity, which is a sight to behold. But to see a koala in the wild is such a rare sight. Nat, I know Australia is the biggest island in the world, but when you stand here, you almost get this sense of coziness with all the small little coves. You could be on a tropical little island somewhere.
Yeah, well, I guess when you're tucked away in the headland here, it feels like you're tucked away in a little part of the world, but yeah, it's a very big coastline.
One really has to take one's time to appreciate this beautiful landscape, and the best way to do that is on horseback. Now, I'm a very lucky boy today because I've got the rare opportunity of riding one of these beautiful horses along some of the country's most premium beaches. How are you doing, Alex?
Good, Janez. How you going, mate?
This isn't just any horse riding activity I went on. The guy's name was Alex Watson. He'd represented Australia 3 times in the Olympics for show jumping. He'd won medals at the World Games. Probably the best cowboy Australia has. Alex, these beaches are endless. Where are we off to today?
Well, we're riding on beautiful Noosa North Shore. It's 70 kilometres of pristine surfing beach, all the way up to Double Island Point and back to the Noosa River.
Can't wait to get riding.
Okay, there you go.
They're trained horses. They're not weak little donkeys. So to have him by my side telling me exactly what to do, it was very comforting, yet so exhilarating having him right next door to me. The horses were something else. They were so well trained. They reacted to everything, every command you threw at them. The vastness of that beach and having this powerful animal in your total control is something else. It's an adrenaline rush. It's this amazing sense of freedom. All this traveling around the world really does take its toll on my body. So when I heard one of Australia's top destination spas was around the corner, I just had to check in. This is such a peaceful setting for a spa.
It is. It's absolutely relaxed. The best place to work.
This almost feels like a Balinese spa.
It is. It's Balinese. The whole place is set up like a small Balinese village. They have these pavilions. They bath their babies in little baths like I'm going to be doing your feet in.
Now, I love being pampered, but I've never had a pedicure.
You haven't?
No.
Lucky, we're doing a foot pamper, so a lot of men have these.
As long as you don't paint my toenails pink.
If you're sure, I could put some red on there if you like.
No. I'll have to drink a bit more if we're going to go that route. A spectacular Balinese environment with wooden decks and jungle all around. And there was this lovely girl, and she was South African. There are so many South Africans living in Australia.
Just have a smell of this. It's a lime and ginger salt scrub. So I'm going to do your feet with that.
Do men often come here for treatments?
A third of our clientele are men. About half of those are all local people. So we've got a very big local base as well as the international market.
So what you're saying is that the Australian men are more metrosexual than the South Africans?
No, I've actually had many South African men through here.
Oh, really? I have a hard life. Poor Janez. All this hard work and traveling and five-star hotels. So when I can find an excuse to just relax my body and heal it, I'll take full advantage. Noosa is definitely a highlight. If I was going on a holiday, being Australian or international, Noosa definitely on my bucket list. I'm at Harvey Bay, which is about 2 hours north of Noosa. Now we're heading towards Fraser Island on a ferry. This is probably one of the most interesting islands in Australia. It's the biggest sand island in the world, and it has more than 100 freshwater lakes on it. This island is something else. I mean, everyone says it's a rare natural wonder. It's totally covered in sand. It's got a sand base. The first place that Richard took me to is Indian Heads, discovered by Captain Cook. And there's a lot of debate about this place. There's so many theories as to how Fraser Island was formed. The one that I researched is that Australia and Antarctica used to form Gondwana land, and they had huge mountains the size of Everest, and they actually eroded. The sand then was deposited on the continental shelf onto volcanic hills, and that is what Fraser Island is today. What is your theory on that?
Well, that's the latest theory, but for a long time people have thought that all the sand that's gathered around this rock we're actually sitting on, this is the birthplace of Fraser, that it comes from our own mountain range that runs from way up north all the way down through Sydney, Blue Mountains into Victoria. It's been eroded by wind and rain and ice age, and then all that sand has been taken by the big rivers to the east coast of Australia, and there a current drags the sand along the coastline, and probably 7 million years ago the sand started to collect and form what we have here today.
Richard, what a character. He doesn't stop talking. Just chat the whole time. So much knowledge though, such a knowledgeable man. So this is the only rock formation on the island then?
That's true. Here in this vicinity, 2 or 3 pieces of old volcanic rock believed to be the birthplace. Otherwise, yeah, everything else here is sand, whether it's compacted or whether it's free-flowing and moving with the wind. It's all sand.
Captain Cook named quite a few places along the island. Why did he call this Indian Heads?
As he sailed past in 1770, he's somewhere out there on the horizon. He looked through his telescope and, well, he looked and said to his sidekick, he said, look, have a look, there's a whole bunch of Indians on the headland up there. That was the word. Nobody knew the word Aborigine in those days.
So why did they call it Fraser Island then?
Well, that comes for much later, 1836, when Captain Fraser and his wife Eliza, James Fraser and Eliza, they travelled to Australia, no problems, but on the way back to England, their ship was wrecked on the Barrier Reef about 400 kilometres north. The result was they ended up on this island, and he was killed, we're told, and she was rescued, but the end result was that in honour of him and in memory of her, they decided that they would call it Fraser's Island.
The thing that really confuses me is this is known as the world's largest sand island, yet there's rock everywhere.
Mainly this island is nothing but sand, but what we have here is what looks like rock, but we call it coffee rock, and it's thousands of years of vegetation that's compressed together, and as it breaks down with the rainwater over thousands of years, it actually, organic matter releases and cements with the sand. It's not particularly strong, but it's waterproof, and certainly is found in various places on the island.
It sure looks like rock. You're going to have to prove that to me.
See this?
It's hard sand, basically.
Yeah.
So brittle.
Yep.
Wow. So this really is the world's biggest sand island. Richard, this must be quite a rare sight to see a ship of this magnitude stranded on the beach.
Well, you wouldn't normally be allowed to leave a ship on the beach, but this came about in 1935. Luxury cruise liner built in Scotland for a New Zealand company, and did very well, serviced the company well. Hospital ship in the ore, and then in 1935 it was sold. It was actually sold to Japanese wreckers, and they only wanted the ship to cut it up for the value of its metal. So it ended up being towed to Japan, and on the way they were very unusual, hit by a cyclone in the middle of winter. What happened was the tow line broke, the ship was pushed onto the beach, nobody killed or injured, but if you go back to the Maori people, that's the name, Mahino, it means island, then they tell us that they didn't want the ship to go to Japan, so they put a curse on it and left the ship here. No way was it going to go to Japan, so the locals love that story.
There are cars driving everywhere. Is this part of the Australian highway system?
Yep, this is gazetted. It's listed as part of the Australian highway system. There's a speed limit and you have to obey the road rules and 80-kilometre maximum speed.
Have you ever in your life heard of a beach that's considered a highway? It's also just a normal beach where people hang out. And I've even seen a sign that says planes can land here.
Yes, it's also classed as the world's longest runway, 75 miles of beach, but it's limited to one company, Fraser, and they do scenic flights, so we may catch a chance today to grab a flight.
Longest runway in the world, small little plane. What to do next? Now this is going to give me a completely different perspective of the island, because they talk about all these freshwater lakes, but you don't actually get to see them. You get to see all these different colored lakes. You get the ones that are stained with the tea tree oil. You get Lake McKenzie, which just looks like an island within an island. It's got pristine white beaches and turquoise waters. The interesting thing is you can almost see how the island is changing continuously because it's all sand and sand moves. Richard told me that this island was used for deforestation for years. They even wanted to do sand mining on the island. Thank goodness that never happened. When you fly up in the sky and you look at this island, there are just trees and plants everywhere. This rainforest gave the Amazon such a good run for its money. Landed on water before, landed at an airport, never landed on sand. I guess a landing in the sand is always going to be soft. Good landing, Captain.
Thanks, Janez.
Fraser Island is pristine and there's not a lot of places you can actually sleep over. The main resort is Kingfisher Bay Resort. If you look at it, you can't even notice it in the landscape. It's so well camouflaged, it's completely eco-friendly. It just blends in with the environment. So this is a typical eco house. What makes it eco-friendly?
There's a number of things. You'll see it's off the ground. So off the ground gives you nice airflow, keeps it nice and cool in the summer. It allows the animals and plants to grow and move freely. The materials used are more natural materials, so no block, no heavy duty stuff.
The resort's got the villas, the chalets and also the hotel. Do they all follow the same principles?
Yes, the hotel was built first, 152 rooms there and the main complex. And it's built on the older Queensland style of large roofs, large verandas, louver windows, the whole thing's the same.
I really like the look of the villa you've chosen for me. Should we go check it out?
Yep, it's one of our premium villas. You'll enjoy it.
It has accommodation for those that want to go camping. It has chalets that are more your 2-star, it has rooms, and then it has the luxury villas. You've really given me your best, very homely.
Yep, it's a villa, so privately owned and given back to us, and it's used in our rental pool. This is just how the owner likes it and set it up for himself.
I'm in heaven. What a fantastic day on Fraser Island with Richard today. I must say, all this fresh sea air makes me so tired, so I'm going to go retire in my 5-star villa. It's a beautiful day. All I want to do is jump in Lake McKenzie today. It looked magical from up above, so I've brought my boardies. How are you doing?
Good, yourself?
Very good, very good. Where are we off to first?
First up for the day, Lake McKenzie.
Yes.
Beautiful sunshine, should be great. And then we'll see what adventure comes our way.
She didn't warn me about Lake McKenzie. She didn't build it up. She just dropped me off, walked me down to the beach, and the rest was just for me to appreciate. I'm so excited to be on this beach. I just want to jump into the water. Now, everyone I've been speaking to tells me that there's just hundreds and thousands of litres of fresh water. Where does it all come from?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, rainfall would have a huge factor in keeping the lake nice and fresh. There's also a lot of fresh water underneath the island that does help to filter feed some of these lakes as well. There are some people who have measured approximately 30 to 40 gigalitres of water, that's pure fresh water, underneath Fraser Island. Now, to give you an idea, 1 gigalitre is equivalent to the amount of water water it would take to fill 440 Olympic-sized swimming pools. And we have 30 to 40 of those underneath Fraser Island.
And the sand's really soft to my feet.
The sand here at Lake McKenzie is almost pure silica. So it's very fine, it gives it the beautiful white colour, and it's great for keeping your skin nice and smooth as well.
So what you're saying, you're going to give me a little body rub later?
Maybe next time.
Why pay hundreds of dollars going to a beautician when you can come to an island like this and do it for free? Oh, that feels really good. You can actually feel how fine the sand is. Let me show you. I mean, you can hardly see the grains of sand. It almost feels like a paste. Let me go rub this off. That Saturday tree is huge. Is that rare to the area or is it quite common?
It's common on the island, but only found on the island here, that specific type of Saturday. There are actually a couple different types in Australia, but that one's only here on Fraser.
And they're everywhere. They're so dense. I mean, the reason it's so dark in here is because no light can get in.
Absolutely. That's the whole theory of a rainforest environment. All the trees that actually exist in here have to try and grow as tall and as fast as they can to be able to grab the sunlight up the top to photosynthesize and keep themselves alive.
They used to use this island for deforestation. When did that stop and how long has it taken for this forest to get to where it is now?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, the logging on Fraser only stopped in 1991, so quite recent. And the only reason for that is that's the year that the island was declared a national park. Because the whole island is sand, the loggers had quite a hard time to try and transfer the timber off the island. So they were only able to selectively clear, never to mass log on Fraser, which is why we still have trees like these Saturdays today.
They're huge.
So you can see on the palm tree that we've got just here in front of us, the base part here that's connecting to the actual trunk. That will come off in quite a large leathery section, and the bachelor people would then use native beeswax and some vine, and they'd stitch up one end and the bottom, and it would become quite a large water carrier or a water jug. And then they'd use the extra frond to counterbalance the weight, and that would help them carry fresh water back to their campsites.
Very clever. When you see a tree of this magnitude, it makes you realize how insignificant we are.
Absolutely, definitely.
This thing must have been around for hundreds of years.
Yeah, for sure. With the tree this size, growing in sand that's got such low nutrient level, it would take much longer to get to this point than what a similar tree on the mainland would have taken. So at least a couple hundred years.
And it's still got some growing to do.
Definitely. The Saturnays can get to about 4 metres wide and up to 50 metres tall, and this one's not quite reached that point yet.
Okay, well, let's see how big it is. Hold my hand here. So we're going to count. Okay, that's 1 body length. That's 2. That's 3.5, yeah. So 5.
5 all up.
Didn't pass maths at school. 5 times 180.
Yeah, about
5.01245. That's a big tree. This water is even more clear than Lake McKenzie.
This is all basically pure fresh water that's coming up from the water table that's right under the island.
So it's not coming from one of the 3 lakes?
No, not at all. When there's a lot of pressure building up in that water table, it will come up as a natural spring. That happens just a couple of kilometres up the creek here, so the water will just continually flow out, and the Wangulba Creek where we are never stops flowing.
And it just runs out into the sea?
It does. It goes right out to the western side of the island.
Can I drink it?
Absolutely. It's probably some of the freshest water that you'll ever try in your life.
No chemicals. Really good. Bex was so chilled. It almost felt like I'd been her mate for years and years. Sadly, today is my last day as a solo adventurer. Tomorrow I meet up with Jeannie and then we're off out of Australia. But quite excited this morning. I'm going whale watching. We're going to take that boat all the way up to Platypus Bay and then we're going to start looking for these whales. It's all about timing and could end up being quite a long waiting game. Wish me the best of luck. So I hopped on a ferry, which is meant to take 45 minutes into Platypus Bay where all the whales are. And The thing is, you need a lot of patience. Hi, Captain.
Hi, how are we going?
I'm very good, and you?
Very well.
This is a virgin experience for me. What is whale watching all about?
Depends on what whales we have to what kind of show we get.
And do they use Platypus Bay for breeding?
Yes, they use this area for breeding. The mothers have their calves a little bit further north. Then by the time they get to here, they're ready to have their calves again, to get pregnant again for next year.
When you speak about migration, where they're coming from, where they're going to?
These whales are heading on their way south now, back to Antarctica. They've already been north. Some of them will go as far as Papua New Guinea.
And food-wise, what do they eat?
They feed on krill. Mostly they eat in the southern oceans, Antarctica. That's where they feed up. The mothers will feed their calves here and fatten them up from Antarctica. So the mothers won't eat, but they'll feed once they get back to Antarctica.
Now, when I think of a humpback whale, I think of something huge. How big do they get?
Well, they're the 6th largest animal on the planet, so they are quite big. They grow up to around about 17 metres in length and weigh up to 45 tonnes.
And are they easy to spot?
An animal that big is very easy to spot, especially in the bay here. Nice calm waters, and it's only about 20 metres deep, so they don't spend long underneath the water.
It was quite choppy out there, rougher than most days, so it became quite tricky because the whales weren't attracted to the boat as usual. And we spent a good 2 hours searching for whales, going left, going right. We could see them in the distance. By the time we got there, they'd disappeared. It was this endless process, and I thought, oh my goodness, my last day, all I want to see is a whale in its natural environment. It's not going to happen. As you can see, whale watching is all about the waiting game. You can see them come from a distance, then you head towards them. Before you know it, they've gone under the water again. But hopefully we'll get them inquisitive and they'll come right up next to the boat. Hopefully. And then from out of nowhere, 3 whales just popped their heads up right next to us, and they were just showboating. They were showing off, they were swimming underneath, they were breaching, they were lifting their tails. I could even see an eye pop out of the water. Right here, 2 of them, 2. Woo! Fraser Island was for me the perfect way to unwind and relax and appreciate the nature of this incredible continent. This continent has got so much to offer. I'd come back to Australia 1,000 times.
This is freaky. It's literally a highway and a runway at the same time. So there's about 40 4x4s heading in our direction, and we're going to kind of like line ourselves up and squeeze in between them. Never mind the fact that there's heavy surf washing onto the beach and that the sand looks rather soft.
Next week on Top Travel.
Such a familiar experience, reunited with Jeannie. And what's the next step? I'm carrying all her luggage.
It was so good to have Janez with me again. At least somebody could carry my luggage now.